After the 1.18 update to Minecraft, I fell in love with the new world generation, and I wanted to do 100 days hardcore in this new, beautiful world. So after recording nearly 28 hours of footage, here is what happened. Spawning in day 0, I am gifted with the sight of a sunken ship on the horizon. Minecraft must know my distaste for wooden tools, so I punch a boat into existence and take to the seas. Gifted with a map, carrots, and some iron, it seems that this world is welcoming me with open arms. Hunting down the treasure, the gifts keep rolling in, spotting a village in front of me. I have barely left spawn, and the luck just keeps coming. Finally reaching the X on the map near a lush jungle, I dive into the water to fill my pockets full of loot. Popping open the chest, I am greeted with my first 2 diamonds. Even though this new update has made diamonds incredibly easy to find, I'm always happy to put them in my inventory. Now being literally the richest man in the world, I barge into my new town. Suspiciously, no one is against me being the new greedy dictator. Being immensely disappointed by my new populace, I learn that they have no earthly possessions that I can borrow. Wondering what kind of strange religious cult that I stumbled upon, I spot a sunken ship down the coast, and I go to it. Realizing that sleeping with my people might give them the wrong idea, I commandeer this vessel as my own, placing down my chest and my bed for my first base. As the first night rolls in, I do as any survivor should, and build a hard shell for my squishy exterior. Not content to sleep in my shack for the night, I take to the sea again in search of more starting capital. Hunting down another buried treasure, I find more goodies to add to my quickly growing stockpile. As the sun of day 1 arises, I find another sunken ship and fight off the hostile creatures guarding it, taking their precious loot. Spotting a competitor's town across the water, I go to investigate, wanting to make sure their populace is as poor as my own. While robbing them, I discover a cute companion wandering their dangerous streets. Realizing that if I left him behind, his life would only be misery, I take him for my own. While taking my new companion home, he attempts to recruit a dolphin to our animal rescue, but I tell him that we have dolphins at home, and he should not be too greedy. Once I get my new companion home, I prepare to dive into the cavern I found next to the town, preparing a shield and finishing my armor to keep off the ever-present threat of death. Clearing out the sprawling tunnels of this mine, I find 2 mediocre chests, but more importantly I stock up on coal and iron for my come-up. Spending the entire night of day 1, I finally crawl back to the surface on day 2, seeing the sun for the first time and weighed down with all of my new gains. Deciding my populace has little to offer me, I decide to tax them in the only way that I can, by stealing their cattle and luring them back to my estate. After establishing what will be a long line of incest-fueled monsters, I decide to name the only companion that I have in this world, settling on the strong name of Fred. May this angel survive just as long as I do. Not wanting to hide in my shack for the night, I go back to mining, exploring the new beautiful depths of this world. Finding my first mined diamond, I lose myself in the dark comfort of this underworld. Deciding I have finally put my body through enough, I make my way back up to the surface, and get myself some well-deserved sleep. Day 2. Day 3 is when I really put my nose to the grindstone, now having to prove to Fred that I am a provider. Crafting my first diamond pickaxe, I go back into the mines, spending most of the day and the majority of the night mining gold, iron, diamonds, and even obsidian. Surprising myself, I find 2 very profitable dungeon chests. Content that Fred will tell all of his friends that I am the cool dad, I limp back to my shack to take a quick power nap. Day 4, I woke up and asked Fred if he wanted a cat. He told me to go to hell. So I did. Exploring my immediate area, I find this very nice homeless man, who will trade me his trash for sticks of butter, so like any sane human being, I trap him in a hole with the entirety of my butter wealth. Unable to find another fortress nearby, I employ this kind gentleman to take me across the lava. Having to find something to offer him, I lure him along with the idea of promotion down the road. Atop my new employee, I finally find what I am looking for. Valiantly clawing my way to the top, digging a tunnel past the mobs, and finding a nearby blaze spawner. As I was valiantly fighting my way through the blazes, I got spooked and hit a pigman. I can honestly say that I have never had my heart fell out of my butt so fast in my entire life. Having collected enough blaze rods, I satiate my hunger for now. hopping on top my new employee and going back across the lava. But before I can make my way back to Fred, I have to find some ender pearls. Building an enderman farm that OSHA would have a field day with, I defend myself from a COVID balloon and collect the rest of my materials. Now able to return home and look my son in the eye, I go to sleep on day 7, content. Telling Fred that I'm going out for a pack of smokes, I whisk myself behind the trails of the Ender Eyes and search for the End Stronghold. After sailing the ocean blue, I find my spot and dig straight down. Cracking into the stronghold, I can already hear the sweet cries of silverfish nearby. Finding the portal easily, I then proceed to raid the rest of the structure, mainly here for the library and finding a nice mending book inside. Now with the entirety of a scholastic book fair on my back, I return to the surface, day 9. Sailing into the sunrise, I speed towards my home, seeking validation for my virtual dog. With the dragon fight becoming a reality, there were 2 main things to take care of: enchanting and capitalism. But for now, we'll handle enchanting. Scoring a diamond pickaxe with efficiency and unbreaking, I can rest day 9, though my thoughts are filled with overseas labor, inflation, and middle management. Waking up day 10 and realizing the hole in my heart can only be filled with money, I turn my village into a money factory, enforcing unemployment, evicting everyone from their homes, and establishing a communal fertility shack. Realizing my people relate to men who get their hands dirty, I go back into the mines hunting for coal. When it is your acceptance rating at stake, a little black lung is nothing to worry about. Reminding myself that one day I will never have to mine for coal myself, I head to bed on day 10. Having to start my emerald-based empire somewhere, I lay the foundation by selling sticks. Because everyone needs a good stick. While waiting for the stick vendor to reset, I take a break in the middle of the day to enchant a sword for the dragon fight. Quickly I test it on one of my incest monsters as they try to escape. By the end of the day, I had upgraded the armor enough to sell diamond armor, buying 2 of the lovely pieces with my accumulated wealth. Day 12, I was stuck doing one of the most mind-numbing tasks in Minecraft, rerolling librarians for the proper enchantment. I spent the entirety of day 12 just getting mending, unbreaking, and infinity. Damn. Days 13 and 14, I fuel the blossoming economy that I have going, turning sticks into emeralds and then turning emeralds into fancy enchanted gear. Knowing the stick bubble was going to pop at some point, I decided to diversify my economy, setting up a pumpkin farm. It is well known that pumpkins are the cash crop of Minecraft. My date with the Ender Dragon was fast approaching as I get up day 15, spending, again, the entire day selling sticks. But I am finally able to buy the rest of my diamond armor, also enchanting a power 4 bow. I begin to check my list of preparations for the fight to come. Knowing that it would not be a 100-day video if I did not make a big deal of my potential demise, I take one last look at my shack and my canine companion and take to the sea. Maybe once I return with the head of a dragon, Fred might tell me that he's finally proud of me. Returning to the fortress, I stare into the swirling black portal for a few moments before throwing myself through, knowing there is no way that I am doing this all over again if I die unheroically to the void. My date with destiny finally comes on day 16. While throwing myself at this otherworldly creature, Dragon's breath licks my heels, arrows fly through the black sky, as the duel goes on long into the night. Finally, I achieve something with my life as I fire the last shot that takes down this beast, crying out with glee as his insides rain down upon me. Allowing myself only a few moments of celebration, I quickly turn my attention to the task at hand, finding a pair of wings to mock the now dead beast. Coming out the other side of the portal, I begin my hunt through this strange land, more scared of the black void than I ever was of the massive beast. My fears were well founded as I botch an ender pearl, sending myself on a one-way trip to Depression Town before my millennial instincts kick in and I double down on a bad idea. While setting up an appointment to get my heart checked out, I continue my hunt for the alluring ships of this land, but only am able to find the store-brand equivalent of End Cities. Beginning to lose my mind, I confiscate the valuables of the End City, ignoring the locals as they try to give me directions home. Finally, my determination and my coffee-fueled diet bears fruit, spotting a beautiful ship off in the distance. Finally acquiring my wings at the end of day 18, I feel a bit of warmth and happiness crawling across my chest. That near-death experience must have really done something to me, because this isn't normal. Knowing that both viewers and Fred would lose his mind if I did not grab the dragon head trinket, I make my way to the front of the ship and claim my prize. Flying back to the portal, I teleport home, happy that I have finally beat the trivial start to Minecraft, and now the game can truly begin. Waking up refreshed on day 19, I spend the entirety of the day organizing my loot and messing with enchantments. Ignoring the pestering questions from Fred about how the end was, I'm able to score some big tools. a helmet with respiration, a sharpness 4 sword, a chest plate with protection 4, and finally, a shovel with efficiency 4 and unbreaking 3. Really beginning to feel the ball roll with this world, I slap mending onto my new wings and name them after a dead meme from almost 10 years ago. With my newfound freedom, I spend days 20 through 22 looting whatever I can get my hands on. Villages, sunken ships, end cities, end ships. I end up having 3 full shulker boxes full of loot, and 2 more pairs of wings. Now facing the decision if this place is going to be my forever home, I take to the skies to do some exploring, wondering if anywhere else would catch my eye. After flying about 2,000 blocks away, I discover another town that lures me in, spotting that they are wealthier than my current people by looting their thriving businesses. Considering settling here, I rest atop a hill nearby that overlooks a large bay and a snowy mountain. Knowing at that moment that this place would suit me quite well, I begin preparing for my move. Day 24, I pack up my valuables and depart my shack, telling Fred that I shall return for him once I have built a house worthy of his magnificence. As I arrive at my new hilltop, the sun is already setting, so I head to bed with excitement for the construction to come. Rising on day 25, I quickly get to work, chopping down every tree on my hill before I begin shaping the ground beneath my feet. Knowing that I want to use the new deep slate blocks in my home, I dig a mine shaft down to the depths of the world, spending most of day 25 and 26 mining. While heading back up to the surface, I see this lush cave tucked into the ceiling. While appreciating its beauty and looking into its tranquil pools, I find this adorable creature. He will be mine. So from day 27 to day 32, all I'm doing is collecting blocks and placing the frame of my home. So to save a bunch of time for this video, here is a simple time lapse of those days. Taking a break from the main house, day 33, I lay the seeds for my future by planting potatoes, carrots, and wheat, knowing that down the road these natural resources will fuel my unquenchable thirst for money. Day 34, I dig out a basement beneath my home, putting in an exit out to the new gardens. Beginning to worry about the curb appeal of my home, I spend all of day 35 landscaping, putting in temporary retaining walls for each tier of my farm. Day 36, I needed an easy source of XP to mend my shovel, so I install a nether portal in my basement to gain access to quartz. While exploring my new nether area, I began to dig down to level 15, knowing I'll need access later to mine ancient debris. Lo and behold, as I'm on my way down, I stumble across my first piece. Yeet. Finally, before leaving the nether, I want to know where the nearest fortress is, so taking a quick flight with my elytra, I spot one nearby. Day 37, in preparation for my pocket economy, I install my patented fertility shack in the town at the bottom of the hill. Having mentioned before that pumpkins were the ultimate cash crop in this world, I begin mining out a space underground for an automatic farm that pumps out those beautiful gourds. As day 38 comes to a close, I finish the silo-shaped farm, still having to install a clock to make it all work. But that would be for another day. That day is day 40 as I dig deep into my massive brain and steal a redstone clock design from the internet. After making sure my money printing machine is working, I head back to the surface. Content. Still planning ahead, I dedicate a room of my house for brewing potions, starting the process of producing vials of weakness, which will serve as the antidote for the zombie infestation that will one day wreak havoc across my populace. Running low on brewing components, I head to the fortress I found earlier to locate a blaze spawner. Finding one enclosed in the wall, I mark it on my map for a later project. Starting on day 42, I begin construction on a villager-driven carrot and potato farm. Never actually having built one of these, I figure it would help supplement my pumpkin empire down the road. I'm not very clever, but I feel like making a joke about diversifying my portfolio is relevant here. Finishing up the project on day 44, I have my first 2 villagers actually producing items for me. This is nice and all, but I think that their asking prices are much too high. We'll have to find some way to fix that. Hearing from the grapevine that workers are mostly motivated by fear, I hire a professional fear consultant for my new farmers. I don't know what magical words he whispered in their ears, but after a quick dousing of weakness and a candied apple, my villagers were eager to throw their money at me. Now having a fresh stream of revenue to work with, I set my sights on the blaze farm I had envisioned earlier. Taking some time to prep the necessary building materials, I brew some potions and cook an excessive amount of glass. Day 47 to 48, I get about half of the farm set up, quickly gaining a hatred for these obnoxious beasts that constantly moan in my ear as I try and build their death box. Taking a break from the blaze farm, I spend 2 days setting up a simple iron farm, getting the villagers and zombies trapped on day 49. Finishing the farm on day 50, I learned that I made a crucial mistake in not burying the villagers deep enough. Now the golems can spawn outside the pit, and instead of spending the time to fix this, I cover the problem with layers of duct tape and move on. Day 53, I decided I can't put it off anymore and go back into the nether to finish my blaze farm. Why I decided this was my first big project is a mystery to me, but I must see it through. As day 54 comes to an end, I finish up the killing chamber for the farm, excited to finally see everything fall into place, as a reliable way to repair my tools is born. Finding myself growing lonely on day 55, I remember my forgotten companion back at my shack. Knowing that I now must keep the promise I gave him, I fly off into the night to retrieve Fred. Barging back into the converted ship, I collect my dog and set to the sea, informing him of all the adventures I had gone through in our days apart. Day 56, I return home with Fred, constructing him a doghouse by the front door so he can pass along his hard-earned approval every time I come and go. Needing moss for some of the details I want to add, I head off to a nearby field to grow a couple stacks. As the night sets in, I use a combination of the new carpet and glowstone to replace the ugly torches around my home. Day 58, I begin construction on a passive mob farm beneath my base, hoping that its lackluster rates will provide me enough gunpowder to keep me airborne. Being too lazy to make the trip down to the collection area, I begin working on an item elevator that links up to my pumpkin farm. Only taking from days 61 to 63, I finally am able to funnel all of my automatic resources into a simple chest in my basement. It ain't pretty, but it sure beats climbing up and down a ladder every other day. Realizing how long I had lived without the comforting sight of netherite tools in my inventory, I march my way into the nether and start the grind for ancient debris. You may be asking why I'm not using TNT or beds, and my answer would simply be I haven't been alive long enough to lose the will to live. Risking my life with explosives is more of a day 366 kind of thing. As day 65 finishes, I fly over to the nearby nether fortress, still under the impression that I was going to fight the Wither in these 100 days. Though I really should take the hint that after an entire day of killing skeletons and building a large spawning platform for them, I leave the nether with 0 skulls. Day 66, I use my first 2 netherite ingots to upgrade my helmet and my boots, having to promise my tools that their turn would come soon, so they didn't go on strike. Hopefully to complement my mob farm, I spend the rest of the day setting up a small sugarcane farm in my backyard. It certainly won't do anything for the property value, but I don't think my neighbors are in a situation to complain. Losing day 68 to having the wrong settings, I come back on day 69 with no audio. Don't worry, the audio comes back in a couple days and you didn't miss much. I spent the entire day on 68 collecting enough ancient debris to produce more netherite for my tools. Still having not seen gunpowder from my mob grinder, I decide a proper creeper farm is needed. Quickly learning the hardest part is finding the frickin' felines to power it. Starting my collection, I find this beautiful specimen in the town below, naming him Chunky because my brain is running on mostly Doritos at this point. The rest of day 69, I continue my hunt for cats, traveling to different towns before I drag home a couple strays and introduce them to reproduction. As their children grow up, I begin placing the shell of my creeper farm, coming up with a brilliant idea of constructing it around my sugarcane, funneling it into the same collection system. Sometimes I even impress myself. Spending days 70 and 71 putting up the structure and herding the cats into their new forever homes, I put up an AFK spot in the sky and test out my new farm. After several seconds of waiting, I relish the fruits of my labor before I decorate my new factory, dressing it up as a ruined tower on the cliff so I can claim my property is now a historical site. On day 73, I decide that the natural sunlight and fresh air of my villagers' current working conditions were far too indulgent, so I set aside a plot of land for a villager trading hall and begin laying it out. Luring a couple librarians into their new dirt tubes, I spend the rest of the day adjusting the footprint of the building. Day 74, the benevolent ruler from the hill comes down to fuel the fertility shack. After creating the next generation, I promise my people lifelong careers in the thriving industry of the written word. Needing to sell the facade that books aren't already outdated, I go back to the end fortress to collect one of the libraries, snagging a dragon egg trinket on the way home. Still under the ridiculous assumption that I was going to fight the Wither, I head back into the nether to collect some skulls. I found myself banging my head against a nether brick wall for days 75 and 76, finding a completely new fortress to kill skeletons in. I killed so many of these damn things, and still didn't get a single skull. Not knowing when to quit, I spend days 78 through 80 killing these stupid, clacking, annoying, awful wither skeletons. I swear they are conspiring against me. Shifting my focus for a while, I get all the stalls of my trading hall filled and begin working on a design for the building, day 82. Using the ultimate motivator of fear again, I lure an infected individual inside to convert the masses. Disposing of him once the job is complete, I save my poor countrymen from the grasp of death, and they thank me for it with rock-bottom prices. Day 85, I settle on a design and get the shell of the building mostly constructed, bringing these poor people's architecture into an acceptable state. Beginning on the roof, I settle on black to remind the workers inside of the crushing void that awaits them if I find their work ethic unsatisfactory. Finishing the building itself on the night of day 87, I begin to realize I am in the home stretch of my 100 days. Knowing that starting any large projects would be pointless at this point, I take a moment to relax and focus on my estate, dedicating day 88 to planting a pumpkin and watermelon patch on the hillside. As I begin to focus more on my home, it's clear that the blank room with a bed would no longer be serviceable for me. If I was going to come out of these days feeling like a king, then I would have to renovate my space. Crafting a banner for my realm, mapping out my area, and displaying some of my prized possessions, my room finally reflects the adventures I've been on. Getting a nice creative break, my hotbar reminds me that my work is not yet done. My diamond axe and shovel staring at me with their pathetic blue eyes. Knowing what I must do, I trudge back to hell and dive into the mines. Crawling back to the overworld on day 91, I finish covering myself in debris and finally have all my tools where I want them. Figuring a fireworks show would be a fitting celebration come day 100, I spend a ridiculous amount of time messing with the firework crafting mechanic, putting together a handful of special explosions on day 92. During the night, I choose the hill between the village and my home to build the launching mechanism, burying it into the dirt and stuffing each dispenser full of what I hoped would be a good show. As I looked over my handiwork, I remembered one poor pet I had picked up along the way that didn't have a place in this world. Deciding now was the time to correct that, I begin construction on a small pond. Finding my forgotten pet, I settle on the creative name of Bucket, and place him into his new home. Even as a full-grown man, I can't deny that I squealed with delight as I watched him paddle around. Assuming wrongly I was done with hell, my mind convinced me that I need a netherite hoe to complete my set. So with minor grumbling, I descend into the mines again. Finally coming out day 94, I craft my ridiculous tool and pray that I am done with debris. Knowing that one of the last things I wanted to complete before the 100 days were up was a bit of nether infrastructure, I spend day 95 getting to the roof and setting up a portal to the village below. Spending a handful of days near the end organizing shulker boxes, getting an ender chest, and condensing all of my materials, I decide to spend day 98 mapping out a perimeter. On my travels, I discover a Badlands biome not too far from my home. As our final day in this challenge finally arrives, I cap off my last project by placing a nether portal over to the end stronghold. This will be an incredible tool later on, allowing us to get to the end with ease. Returning home as the evening sets in, I take some time to reminisce over the last 100 days. Looking over my sun-soaked land as a swelling feeling of accomplishment rises in me. Taking my time to say goodbye to Bucket in his comfy home, Fred in his prominent post, and Chunky the guardian of the enchanting table, I allow myself one last look of my home as the sun finally sets on day 99. While waiting for the impending arrival of day 100, I commemorate the conclusion of this challenge with a sign above my bed. Unable to wait any longer, I turn on my fireworks display to ring in day 100. First, I would like to say thank you to everyone who has watched the video up to this point. I certainly didn't think this project would take as much time as it did, but as I'm sitting here at the end, I'm thoroughly glad I saw it through. Obviously, this type of video is inspired off of the original hardcore 100 days done by TheNotable. Ever since I watched his video, I've wanted to do my own take on it, and now I've done just that. And while this video is coming to an end and the 100 days have been survived, I have no intention of stopping. While I may not strictly stick to this type of format, simply due to the level of organization and editing involved, I have tons of amazing plans for this hardcore world that I am itching to start on. So lastly, if you enjoyed your stay, I would greatly appreciate if you dropped a like on the video and considered subscribing. While it may not mean much to you, it would mean the world to Fred.